I worked in a venture capital fund, one of the most prestigious fields in finance. Just to give you an idea, some funds manage billions of dollars and yet have 5 employees. And why is that? Because in a fund, there aren't really low skill tasks that you can delegate in a large volume. So those funds are highly disincentivized in getting new interns. So how on earth did I get in at 19 years old with basically no CV? And of course, no personal connection. Kinda wish I had connection, to be honest. So unlike my usual videos you can find on the channel, this one is more laid back. It's just me telling you the story of my first real internship, what I learned, and a few lessons you can take away. My CV was basically empty. So how the hell did I get in? Well, I'll keep that till the end of the video. So stick with me because we need to clarify a couple of things first. So what exactly is venture capital? In the simplest terms, it's when investors put money in very small companies, startups, that are innovative and have a crazy growth potential. These aren't stable businesses yet, at all. And investors back those startups because they're hoping that they will be the next Airbnb or the next Uber. And of course, get their money back. So how does a fund actually work? I'm trying to take the key concepts and then kind of translate into what I did on a daily basis. So behind a VC fund, there are limited partners, basically who puts the money. They're usually pension funds, very healthy individuals, corporation, or whatever. And these funds are managed by the general partners. So all the employees that actually manage the day-to-day operation and make the final investment decision. So when a fund says it manages 1 billion euros or $1 billion, that's actually the pool of money that it gathered from all those limited partners. Funds also specialize in stages. Of course, a company that just founded and a company like Uber, they were both startup at a certain point, but they are in a completely different part of their story. Especially the fund I worked in was a very early stage, so pre-seed and seed stage. It's basically when the founders come up to you with just the idea. Sometimes they didn't even develop the product just yet and they need funds to create it. So actually choosing startups at this stage is more like an art than a science, you could say that, because you're actually betting on founders, their idea, their vision, rather than, of course, you don't have any numbers to analyze it. So what does a VC employee do? I'll share what I did a little bit later in the video, but on a more of a senior level, it's more like negotiating terms, manage the investments, and then most of the time when you have a significant amount of the company, like you pay 1 million to get 10% of the company, you will basically sit on the board of that company as well. So you can actually manage your investment a little bit better and maybe, point the founder in the right direction. There's people that like this part, there's people that are not really a fan of this. But at the end of the day, the job is really a mixture of finance, intuition, people skills, and many other soft skills. Just to make it clear, don't imagine that as an intern, you decide who gets the money. Some funds usually have an investment committee. There's basically analysts or associates that gather the startups and do the initial due diligence, have a call with founders, see, of course, if they are interested in receiving the money. And then they go up to the investment committee to decide if the fund wants to make a proposal to the founder or not. So the farthest you can go as an intern is proposing a startup to the investment committee, and that's already a big deal. So now that I gave you a bit of information, let's dive in a little bit in the behind the scenes. What's the atmosphere like in an office? Who typically works in a fund like this? I would say the atmosphere is more like forget suits, forget ties. Of course, everybody can dress however he wants, but I would say it's more like a chill experience in the office, especially because the people that work as a VC, they usually have prior experience. They come from more classic finance like investment banking, or they were founders. So they actually made their own startups. Maybe they failed, maybe they didn't. So there isn't actually a specific profile when working in VC, and that's what makes it even harder to get in. So the vibe is more open space, and it's more like a chill experience. So it's kind of closer to the startups that actually the fund is backing than Wall Street. So I didn't really spoil yet why I decided to apply for this job in the first place. Well, I've never seen myself as an Excel guy. Like, I know I wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit more dynamic. And I felt like when I first found out about venture capital, I felt like it was the right compromise, in my opinion, between what could be called like more like a dynamic job, but still have an interesting and fundamental part of finance. As I said before, you can invest more in people than in numbers. So let's talk about kind of the day in the life. What was it like working in the office? I would say I was getting in the office around 9 a.m. and I was leaving before dinner. I rarely worked after dinner, especially because it was in the summer, so not the busiest period you can work. So at junior levels, the job is basically analyzing startup and sourcing startups. So you basically have a database of thousands of startups. You also, most of the time, have to reply to founders that are reaching out because they want funds. So all this part is basically understanding good ideas from bad ideas. And then after you have that, you can kind of meet the founder and take it up from there. The goal, I know it sounds harsh, but is to discredit the founder as much as possible. So trying to understand all the flaws in the idea to make it really, to see if it's really bulletproof. I would say out of 10,000 startups, very, very few get accepted. We're talking about maybe 10 investments per year that usually the fund makes. But disclaimer, this can be incredibly different based on the type of fund, what other side activities they do. I'm just talking about what I've seen generally in the industry. So sourcing startups, analyzing them, meet with the founder. Most of the time, it's going to be you and an associate, you and a partner meeting with the founders. And of course, as an intern, you have to take the notes. Yes, you have to take the notes. And then of course, running market research. Remember, at an early stage, this is basically a startup coming up to you and say, we have a way to revolutionize the physical banks in Italy. You have to make your own research, because if they say the bank business in Italy is 1 billion, and you can kind of find with your own research that that's a little bit less or a little bit more, you can actually see if there's potential or not. Also, a huge part of the VC industry are events. There were tons of events. I was working actually in a startup hub, so the events were mostly where we were working. So this was a great occasion to networking with many people from many different industries, meeting a lot of founders, and have like a mixture of very different industries as well. And this was super important because I knew from the beginning that this internship would have been all about contacts. It was just not sitting at a desk all day and just talk with your team, but it was really a way to interact with as many people as possible. Because at that point, of course, I was still in a phase where I was trying to understand all the career path possible. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you can kind of read behind the lines and understand that this internship was actually super useful to get the following one. So in between all these tasks, most of the time it's very difficult to escape what I call the intern tunnel. It's when you're basically assigned every single time the same task, and it's very hard to get something new out of this. What actually helped me was knowing how to use a very specific tool that many in the industries are using right now. Of course, I'm not going to tell you guys, but maybe we'll talk about it in a future video. So from the story, it seems all linear, but in the beginning, it was super tough. You have to think, at this point, I just did my first year of bachelor, which is basically math and law and maybe some statistic exam. So I had zero skills, and it took a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of research to make my colleagues even consider me for more difficult tasks. Actually, an honorable mention to the team here. They were the absolute highlight of the internship. Super young, super talented, and willing to put me up for the task every single time, even if it meant putting some time off their schedule to dedicate to me. So what about lessons learned? I thought about this a lot. This video was actually a very good occasion to really think back about what happened. It was almost 2 years ago, and so it was super nice to get some of those memories back. So I came to think that your first internship is basically social training. No matter the skills you get, one of the most important things that you're gonna learn is how to behave in an office. That's completely different from university, from group projects. Here, you're in an office, you're working with people that are 5, 10, 20, but even 30 years older than you. So all the dynamics are completely different. You need to understand whether you can make a joke or not, whether you can go bother someone or where you can't. Try to interact with people when you kind of want something from them, let's say that, not in a bad way, but maybe you want their help or something and you see that they're super busy. So it's kind of like all these social things, because you kind of unlock a completely new environment. You've just seen school, maybe you've seen, the relationship with your friends or with your groups, with your sport group, but you've never seen anything like this. You've always maybe imagined your parents being in this kind of situation, not yourself. So actually trying to interact and build valuable connection with people that are older than you, I find it to be particularly challenging, but I think I managed pretty well at the end. Lesson 2, networking is crucial. It's crucial to get the job, it's crucial in the job, and it's crucial after the job. You unlock another type of connection, which is ex-colleagues. One thing is people that you met because you reach out on LinkedIn or you knew them from university. Those people, your ex-colleagues, actually know how you work. So they've seen you under pressure, they've seen you performing tasks you had no idea how to do. They've seen all of that. If they change role, whatever they ended up in the future, they will always have that vision of you. So that's also very important to behave well. I talked about it in my last video as well. So as I said before, this internship was actually incredibly powerful with all the events and opportunities to really connect with people that weren't actually even my colleagues. Lesson 3 is don't underestimate small advantages and dive in. I knew these tools, I saw that they were using it, and I tried to pave my way any possible way to sneak that tool into the conversation and try to make them understand that I was actually proficient in that tool. And last but not least, buy side feels kind of good. There's actually this distinction between sell side and buy side. Sell side is basically you have to sell some services, for example, to the client. Buy side is basically the venture capital private equity world. So basically you have the money and someone's asking for it. So in this first internship, I had founders reaching out because they were raising capital and they needed money and they were trying to get their way through me. And then in my other internship in sales, I was actually cold calling people to try to sell my service. So there's actually two opposite worlds, and it really depends on how you're wired, which one you prefer. And finally, the reveal. How the hell did I get in? Of course, with no CV, no connection, nothing at all. It wasn't magic. It was initiative. So during my first year, I was very determined to get an internship. And at the same time, I was seeing all my colleagues that weren't really bothering about that at all. So that really kept me motivating to pushing even harder. And I have to say that starting with zero experience, working with only 3 months in Italy, including August, which is basically a completely off month for most of the companies in Italy, it was super, super tough. I know it might be easier in many other countries, but I would say in Southern Europe, that's not the case. So I had to reach out to many, many people. I would say I maybe reached out to 500 people / companies. And at that time, I wasn't even aware of the whole effort it would have took. I just went for it. One of the hardest things is even get to that first interview when on paper you have absolutely nothing. And I talked about a couple of ways to do that in my video about how to get more interviews. You can check the video here and down in the description. So increase your surface area of luck and eventually you'll get lucky. Then of course there was the interview. I'm not going to talk about the interview process specifically, but it was not super easy, let's say that. And then I finally got the offer and I just started right the day after I did my last exam. So it was never because I was the smartest in the room at all, guys. It was because I started earlier than most, way earlier than most. And I want to state this, it was also a huge privilege. Many people never reach this point. I was privileged enough to be able to work in my own city, so zero expenses added, to sign the internship contract with the university. And they made the process super easy. I was able to work without having to worry about sustaining myself. So I didn't actually use that time to work, for example, as a waiter to make money. So to wrap up, getting in VC at 19 was incredible. It was a privilege. It was a super valuable experience that will forever change the trajectory of my career and how I see opportunities. If you want something that you can do today or watch now, here's the video on how to land more interviews. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.